Okay, so you want to buy a cellular tower network. Plant a few hundred steel spires into the dirt, bolt on some heavy radio antennas, and sit back while giant telecom companies pay you thousands of dollars a month just to beam 5G signals into people's smartphones. Sounds like the ultimate digital real estate empire, right? You're essentially charging a monthly toll on every text, streaming, video, and phone call made across entire cities. But here's the strange part. Cell tower companies are some of the most capital-intensive, debt-burdened, and land-dependent businesses on the planet. They carry tens of billions of dollars in long-term debt. They rely on decades-long lease agreements, and a single shift in interest rates or carrier consolidation can threaten the core math of their portfolio. Anyway, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how tower companies actually make money on the inside, how a simple piece of vertical steel turns into a high-margin annuity, the hidden ground lease costs that eat away at revenues, and why a cell tower network isn't really a technology business at all. It's a commercial real estate business that rents vertical height instead of floor space. To understand how you even build an empire in this space, you have to look at how the major players operate. Companies like American Tower, Crown Castle, and SBA Communications own hundreds of thousands of towers globally. They don't usually build mobile networks or sell cell phone plans to consumers. Instead, they act as neutral host landlords. They build or buy the physical infrastructure, the steel tower, the secure compound, the backhaul fiber connections, and the power systems, and then lease space on that tower to wireless carriers like AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. Now, let's look at what it actually costs to build one of these things, because the numbers reveal why this market is dominated by massive real estate investment trusts. A standard macro cell tower, the classic 100 to 200 foot steel lattice or monopole structure you see along highways, costs anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000 to construct from scratch. That covers the steel, the concrete foundation poured deep into the earth, the physical fencing, backup diesel generators, and the fiber optic connection back to the core network. But before you even pour a single yard of concrete, you're spending $50,000 to $100,000 on site acquisition, soil testing, structural engineering, and fighting local zoning boards that really don't want a 150-foot metal pole in their suburban neighborhood. So, how does the money actually flow in? This brings us to the holy grail of the cell tower business model, the tenancy ratio. Here's the thing. When you first erect a tower for a single anchor tenant, the financial math is pretty modest. That first carrier might pay you around $2,000 to $3,000 per month in rent, or roughly $30,000 a year. On a $250,000 build cost, that initial return on invested capital is only around 6% to 8% after accounting for operating expenses. You're barely breaking even once you factor in the cost of capital. But here is where the magic happens. The marginal cost to add a second or third carrier to that exact same physical tower is remarkably low. You don't need to buy more land or pour a new concrete foundation. You just bolt another set of antennas onto a different elevation of the steel frame. When carrier B moves in, your revenue doubles to $60,000 a year, but your operating expenses barely move at all. By the time you hit a tenancy ratio of 2 or 3 tenants per tower, your return on invested capital skyrockets from 6% to well over 20%. Think of a cell tower like an apartment building built vertically in the sky. The land lease and the foundation are your fixed building costs. The anchor tenant pays for the building's basic heating and lights. Every additional tenant you stack above them is almost pure profit dropping straight to your bottom line. On top of the base rent, tower owners make money through what the industry calls amendment revenue. Every time a carrier wants to upgrade its network, say, swapping out older 4G LTE radios for heavier, power-hungry 5G massive MIMO antenna arrays, they can't just climb the tower and do it for free. they have to sign a lease amendment that increases their monthly rent to account for the extra weight, wind load, and power consumption on the tower. On paper, this creates an incredible financial engine. Top tower REITs generate gross operating margins, often measured as site rental gross margin of 60% to over 70%. That looks like an unstoppable money machine. But here's where the math gets tricky. Where does all that cash actually go, and what are the hidden traps? Second, you have operational expenditure, or OPEX. Tower operating costs are relatively lean, usually around 15% to 20% of revenue, covering structural inspections, lighting maintenance for aviation hazard lights, vegetation control around the fencing, power grid connections, and property taxes. Third, and most importantly, you have the debt. Cell tower networks are built on massive piles of cheap leverage. To buy thousands of towers at a time from carriers doing corporate carve-outs, tower companies borrow billions through senior secured notes and asset-backed securitizations. When interest rates are low, this leverage acts like rocket fuel, driving sky-high returns on equity. But when interest rates rise, refinancing billions in maturing debt at higher rates can devour cash flow faster than new carrier leases can replace it. And this brings us to why these seemingly guaranteed legal monopolies can face severe headwinds. The primary killer of tower economics isn't technology, it's carrier consolidation. Consider what happens when major wireless carriers merge, such as the Sprint and T-Mobile merger. Before the merger, both companies might have paid rent on the exact same tower to cover the same geography. Afterward, the combined company realizes it doesn't need two sets of antennas on the same pole. They terminate the overlapping lease as soon as the contract expires. Overnight, your tenancy ratio drops from 2 down to 1, knocking your high-margin tower back down to a low-yielding asset. Industry analysts estimate that carrier churn from consolidation can wipe out 1% to 3% of a tower portfolio's organic revenue every single year. Then there's the threat of technological shifts. While small cells and micronodes mounted on street lamps handle dense urban 5G traffic, macro towers remain essential for broad coverage. However, if satellite direct-to-cell technology rapidly advances or carriers cut back on capital expenditure during economic downturns, the rate of new antenna deployments slows down, capping the tower company's growth. So, what is the ultimate payoff scenario for owning a cell tower network? When you build a scaled portfolio in high-growth corridors with long-term, inflation-linked contracts, which typically feature built-in 3% annual rent escalators, the compounding effect is extraordinary. Wireless data consumption grows globally by roughly 20% to 30% every single year. People are streaming higher resolution video, using more cloud data, and connecting millions of new devices. Wireless carriers have no choice but to continuously invest in their network density to prevent dropped calls and slow speeds. Because cell tower lease contracts are typically locked in for 5 to 10 years with multiple renewal options, the cash flow predictability is unmatched in almost any other sector of commercial real estate. Once the debt on a tower is amortized, that tower turns into an inflation-protected cash spigot that prints high-margin dividends for decades. At the end of the day, owning a cell tower network isn't about chasing the latest tech fad or building shiny gadgets. It's about owning the essential, non-replaceable physical gateway that sits right between the digital world and the physical earth. You aren't just selling steel in the sky, you're collecting rent on the global internet, 1 megabyte at a time.